we're now talking about writing your bid. Okay, so a little bit about writing your bid here. And I'm going to give you some kind of highlights here and some kind of quick tips. Again, we could spend hours and hours talking about this, but this is the kind of quick version. Okay, so I'm a very big fan of a logical, structured, and repeatable approach. Okay, that's my kind of core thing with this. And I apply that to anything where we're looking at kind of bids, tenders on either side of the fence. And one thing that you should do is that you should assign a bid lead, somebody who's responsible for the process, the content, and the result, including asking clarification questions. So certainly my experience with this is the bidders who do better are people who are more organized and have this kind of lead, kind of this bid lead kind of person. Break down the bid into actionable chunks and be coherent across each part of your response. So again, it's okay for different people to write different chunks of your response, but then you've got to have this one person pull it all together to make sure it's coherent. So you're not saying one section you'll do this, and then another section you're saying you do something completely different. Really, really important. And this point here, guys, quality matters. So proofread your bid. Nothing turns me off more as a procurement professional than reading tenders that have spelling mistakes, grammar errors, and things like that. And it just sends the wrong message. There was a large contract I was dealing with many years ago, and it was like a £10 million kind of service contract. And actually, there was a spelling error in the first line of the answer to the first question. And that makes me think, well, come on, guys, if you can't kind of spell check your work, how are you going to kind of manage a £10 million service contract? It doesn't fill me with confidence. Now, so kind of think about what it looks like and think about how you can influence the kind of the minds of the people who are marking this by showing that you are professional organizations, that you do things properly and you check your work before you submit it, that kind of thing. Quality matters. And I quite like a bit of independent proofreading. Give it to your friend, give it to your colleague, give it to somebody who hasn't been involved in the process within your organization. I often ask my partner to proofread things for me if I've written it, because I get word blind on something that I've written, and she'll pick out things which I maybe haven't seen. If you bid, you should actually be able to fulfill the specification and manage that contract in practice. Okay, it's one of those things where you don't want to bid on a whim. Really important, guys. Here, don't bid on a whim, just for the sake of it. And you can use a bid writer, but this can be problematic. What do I mean by this then? Okay, so let's look at some kind of common kind of bid issues, common problems here. So things which people often do. So missing out questions. Yeah, missing out questions, not answering the questions actually being asked. What we're talking about here is things like a bit like when you have a job interview, you don't know the answer to the question the person asks you, so you answer a question that you've already prepared for in your head, and it sounds brilliant. You might get away with that for an interview. You won't get away for it in a tender process, because you'll be marked either as non-compliant or you'll get a very, very low mark for that question. Another common thing, unattached attachments. We see a lot of this where they're literally, bidders are going to actually say, well, see attached plan, and then it isn't attached. And depending on how badly how bad the situation is, how quickly this is picked up by the contracting authority, you may not get the chance. They may not give you the chance to reattach that later on. Or they might say, kind of something like, we've noticed you've referred to an attachment that isn't there. We give you 1 hour to upload that. So that's not enough time for you to go away and write it, but it's enough time for you to actually find the right attachment and attach it back through the portal. And again, there's some very, very kind of clear regulations on that the public sector doesn't want to fall foul of. Exceeding word or page count, absolutely don't do this. You're wasting your own time. If it says a maximum of 500 words, any words over that will be either kind of struck out, or the system will not let you actually upload that. If it's like a 5 pages maximum and you put 7 pages in there, the contracting authority will literally tear off the back 2 pages, and that won't go forward to the evaluators. So you are wasting your time in doing that. And potentially, if you put any really important information in those last 2 pages, then actually that's not going to be seen by the markers. So you need to be really careful. One of my pet hates, don't include marketing bump. Don't just stick in a sales brochure, your glossy brochures. It won't get marked. It's not relevant. Don't include it. And then there's a kind of a point here about kind of bids which are too polished or not polished enough. So the too polished bid looks absolutely amazing, but there's no content in it. Or it looks like it's been written by a very expensive bid writer, but there's no kind of real oomph there, or it doesn't really show that the person understands the topic. Equally not polished enough. The person has kind of not spent the time and effort to actually make sure this is a coherent bid, going back to what we talked about a few minutes ago. Now, something else that you need to be aware of is this idea about setting expectations that don't quite match your reality and your ability to deliver. So something which kind of I quite like is the best example of this that I can find, really. And there's other examples out there. Is the Pyramids of Giza in Egypt. Amazing place. I've been there many, many, many years ago. Probably not the safest part of the world to go to now, but a stunning kind of wonder of the world, really. And that's what we see. That's what you expect. That's what's on the postcards. That's what's on the website. Unfortunately, when you get there, it looks a little bit like this. So it's not kind of bright yellow against a kind of a beautiful blue sky. It's all a bit hazy. It's a bit dirty, and it looks like it's in the middle of a kind of housing estate and an industrial estate. And the reason for that is this is the reality. When you're able to pull back and look at it, the reality is actually it's right on the edge of a massive, massive urban conurbation. Okay, so and if I'd known that before I went there, I wouldn't have been horrified when I got there and found, well, actually, I feel like I'm stood in a housing estate, kind of on the edge of one of this ancient kind of monuments, rather than my expectation, which is a top picture there, that it was going to be in the middle of the desert and there's camels and that kind of thing. It just isn't like that. Okay, so if you're thinking about your bid, you don't want it to look like this top picture up here. Yeah, okay. You may want to represent it better than the middle picture, but actually you should be honest with what you can deliver, and actually that aerial view saying, well, look, guys, this is what it is. You can represent things nicely, sell things in a really good light. That's absolutely fine, but don't try and pull the wool over the eyes of the evaluators, because then when you do go to deliver, your best case scenario, they're going to be a bit disappointed by what you have done. Worst case scenario, you might be kind of have your contract cancelled and you might be taken to court for something called misrepresentation, which basically means you said it would do one thing and it doesn't, it does something completely different. So you need to be very careful around those pieces. So linked to that, some words and phrases to avoid in your bids. Okay, so avoid these words, please. These really wind up procurement professionals. Saying things are high quality, best practice, clean, lightweight, designed to meet the standard, user-friendly and quick. All these things. Our IT system is really fast. It's quick. Our new kind of white clean surfaces are spotlessly clean. This is a lightweight laptop. This is a high quality training solution. All of these things. We designed this to meet the standard. Well, it's great that you designed it to meet the standard. Does it actually meet the standard? And this is what we're kind of looking at here. So high quality, how is this measured to what standard? Best practice, who's best practice? Having worked in the medical side for a while, knowing that medical best practice varies between America, the EU, France, the UK, New Zealand, it all kind of varies. There are commonalities, but best practice is not generic. Clean to what standard? Parts per million, something like that. Lightweight to a human or an elephant. When I worked in defense, we used to talk about things like one-man lifts or two-man lifts and then give an actual weight kind of associated with it. Designed to meet the standard, but does it? We talk about that. User-friendly to which generation of people? Are we talking about a mobile app here? That kind of people are going to find are really, really good and really, really easy. But actually, if you're trying to engage with a much older demographic, or people with like dementia or something along those lines, actually, it's not going to be user-friendly at all. It's going to be extremely confusing and stressful for them. So actually, you need to find other ways of kind of contacting them. And quick to a cat or a snail, entirely subjective. This is all subjective stuff. If you put in a lot of subjective terms into your tenders, into your bids, you're not going to score well from them. You might get some clarification questions. You said it's clean. What do you mean? Other contracting authorities might go, well, actually, this is just nonsense. It's all subjective. They've not answered the question and just give you a really low mark. So it's best to get this sorted out kind of beforehand.